To understand the landscape of mid-century cinema, we have to look at the global standard for success. At the time, that standard was defined by massive Hollywood and Soviet epic productions. Ray's essay, Odds Against Us, identifies the specific inputs required for this scale. With the backing of immense money, manpower, and materials, directors could build entire cities in Madrid or Moscow, shoot their films, and leave the set standing as tourist attractions. Satyajit Ray operated in a different world. Working in Bengal, his environment offered none of these resources. He lacked the capital, the vast market, and the technical infrastructure required to compete directly with Hollywood on that level. Despite these gaps, Ray was incredibly prolific. Between 1955 and 1978, he directed 28 feature films, 5 documentaries, and 3 short films, a body of work that eventually earned him an Academy Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1992. Ray's celebrated style grew from the specific limitations of this ecosystem. Lacking the tools of global cinema, his work prioritized the psychological and atmospheric over the physical. Because of these financial and technical walls, Ray and his Bengali contemporaries mastered what he termed intimate cinema. This approach relies on capturing mood, atmosphere, and complex human relationships instead of visual spectacle. Ray noted the irony in how classic blockbusters used 2 years in the making as a marketing boast. His own intimate debut film, Pather Panchali, could claim that exact same timeline. But that 2-year timeline wasn't a sign of scale. It had the cadence of a dirge. It marked long stretches where the crew sat completely idle, waiting for small trickles of funding to arrive so they could continue. Every hallmark of Ray's intimate cinema was directly engineered by an uncompromising gauntlet of financial, moral, and physical privations. The gauntlet begins with the very first step of production, selecting a story. Filmmaking in this environment carries immense financial risk. If a film fails to recover its costs, financial backers lose faith. This loss of confidence is highly contagious. If one backer withdraws, others tend to follow. To keep a project alive, a director must ensure commercial viability above all else. Ray argued pure artistic experimentation was an unaffordable luxury, requiring a tight production budget. Directors also faced strict cultural filters. Ultra-Victorian conventions made authentic physical passion impossible. In Davy, Ray had to shoot a kissing couple merely as a silhouette behind mosquito netting. The threat was immediate. He knew that a clear close-up would provoke catcalls from the theater audience. That noise would have destroyed his delicate audio track of shrilling crickets and distant jackals. Because of these moral restrictions, romantic scenes across the wider industry were reduced to a vapid formula: clasped hands and longing looks performed against artificial backdrops. Before a single camera is loaded, a script's narrative potential is aggressively diluted at the twin threats of financial ruin and audience revolt. The narrative space is narrowed further by stifling political censorship enforced by the Board of Censors. Producing a political satire or directly depicting a corrupt politician on screen was virtually impossible. Consider the Gandhi cap, which was a potent symbol of Indian political identity. Ray describes a case where a filmmaker might feature a corrupt bank clerk wearing one simply to hide his baldness. To avoid perceived political disrespect, the censor board might arbitrarily demand the filmmaker paint the cap black directly on the celluloid. Furthermore, deviating slightly from classic literature risked attacks from a horde of belligerent intellectual critics. Mid-century Bengali filmmakers operated within an incredibly narrow, heavily monitored sliver of human experience. Once a script is vetted and compromised, the production moves to the casting phase, what Ray viewed as the crucial first step of interpretation. In the West, directors rely on a robust professional infrastructure, casting agents, talent scouts, and thick dossiers of available extras. In India, this system was non-existent. Newspaper ads rarely worked, as talented individuals often feared rejection and wouldn't apply. This forced directors to personally scour the streets and social events they hated, like cocktail parties and wedding receptions, just to find suitable faces. Ray details the extreme lengths this required during Aparajito. To find Chinese extras for a brief 90-second shot, he waited hours in the dark, stifling, opium-filled anteroom of a Calcutta brothel, negotiating for extras who never arrived. Beyond the struggle for extras, there was a permanent crisis regarding primary roles. There was an alarming shortage of highly skilled, professional middle-aged character actors. When foundational actors passed away, entire avenues of storytelling closed. After the death of Chabi Biswas, Ray stated he was unable to write another middle-aged part that required a high degree of professional talent. Surviving the script phase means nothing if the director cannot survive the physically exhausting, luck-based gauntlet of finding human talent in the wild. Finally, the production arrives at the shoot, taking place inside Calcutta's local studios. These spaces were defined by a pervasive air of shabbiness that would be incredibly unnerving to most international Hollywood professionals. Environmental hazards actively threatened the production. The studio rafters housed rodents, the floors were heavily pitted, and electrical voltage inevitably dropped. The mechanical equipment was equally degraded. Ray notes that his cameras would audibly groan as they turned. At this stage, the very physical space and the tools of creation are actively resisting the filmmaker's attempt to create art. Despite the financial risk, censors, and failing equipment, Ray states plainly, "I do not think of these as hindrances." This bareness of means demands strict economy and inventiveness. Limitless resources make technical perfection easy, but that can turn craftsmanship into a sterile end in itself. For Ray, true cinematic excitement and artistic integrity are forged exclusively in the friction of this extreme privation. Filmmakers had to survive risk-averse backers, outsmart Victorian moral codes, navigate a political minefield, scour streets for actors, and battle rat-infested studios. His intimate cinema was a required strategy for survival in an impossible ecosystem. It provided a way to work when pressures would paralyze standard productions. Ray concluded that the unique challenge of extracting beauty from these exact circumstances of shoddiness and privation brought him genuine happiness and creative fulfillment. Great art is not defined by the absence of limitations. It is defined by the specific, rigorous genius required to transcend them.